Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to episode 40. As always, Sunny Bonani Dumalang, goeie aand, afternoon, bon dia. So, in little celebration of it being the 40th episode that I have recorded consecutively on these daily vlogs since I started, I thought I would do a little chat and just tippy tap into the aspect and element of homeschooling, self-directed education, not going to school, that kind of stuff. So I've mentioned this before, but a couple of years ago in 2018, actually, my hubby and I decided to embark on this journey of homeschooling, as it was known to us back in the day, And it wasn't a decision that was made spontaneously. It was one that we thought quite a bit about. And we have had no regrets subsequent to having gone this route. And a caveat, I know that the route we've taken is definitely not for everyone. So please, I'm not saying that homeschooling is the be end and end all of life and all kids should be homeschooled. I'm not saying that at all. I think the current schooling curriculum and system is definitely equipped and catered for many kids, but definitely wasn't catered for our kids. I just want to chat a little bit about that today and maybe what were some of the core drivers and reasons as to why and what led us to take this route of homeschooling and what we now call self-directed education. So when our eldest son started good old creche, in early days, good old beginnings, I must be honest with you, my heart really, truly deep down inside did ache every time I dropped him off at school, as it does with many moms. But it just felt very unnatural for me. But we trot on and we push those feelings aside and we just keep moving. So I had a fabulous little business at the time. So I really got zoomed in and locked into growing my business, which was very successful. And keep dropping the boys off at creches and doing what I felt I needed to do. And as the years started to progress, I started to see how, I can't say that my eldest was unhappy, but he was just very uncontent. And he used to come home and he used to have these absolute meltdowns, mornings, every single sunrise to get my eldest in particular off to his little creche or off to his little school was just, it was something, okay? Like it really was something. And I know most parents would be like, that's just part of this process. Just, they'll get used to it, just tell them to go. We've tried it for a while and, when something just doesn't sit right, like when you've had something that is a little bit too indulgent and it's like sitting here and you don't know if you want it to just actually just come out because it might make you feel better. Well, that's exactly what my day-to-day morning kind of felt like for what was almost like 2 years, I must be honest with you. So we tried, we went to a particular school, was really great school, really family values school and all that kind of stuff. But before you know it, Ethan was taking all these extramural curricular activities because apparently there was so many things that he was struggling with, should I say. It was a polite way of putting it, but he was struggling to keep up. So I could already see that he was a little bit of a different child, and the current way of school or what he was being exposed to just really wasn't meeting his requirements and his needs. Needless to say that he went for these evaluation and these tests, and all these crazy things that the school had people actually come in and do, which is fascinating actually. And we were told a whole host of things about our son, which, in my personal opinion, I would say was actually just utter, complete fucking bullshit, frankly. An example, because examples are powerful. On one particular instance, they had a complete stranger who a 4 or 5 year old kid has never ever met, has absolutely no rapport with, and gets put in a class with this human and is taken through a series of questions and inquiries and acquisitions. And yes, our eldest does require time to build rapport with you because that's just the kind of human that he is. Um, anyway, before you know it, we were being advised that our son needed speech therapy and that he needed to be on Ritalin and that he was just far too hyper and he needed to ground himself. So they, even without my knowledge or consent, put this jacket on him, the only one in the class with little kids, only one in the class. And it's like a weight vest that weighs you down so that the child feels like grounded and like heavy. As someone who now teaches embodiment practices, I would say, wow, WTF, actually. That's what I would say now. So yes, so this was interesting. And I remember he always had fabulous teachers. So I just want to also mention that he really had some really superb and great teachers. And I remember the teacher at the time actually telling me and asking me, have you ever considered homeschooling um, your eldest? And I was like, girl, what the hell are you smoking? I've got no time to homeschool my kids. No, man. He's a fucking genius. He is a genius. Our eldest and our youngest, both of them are like so intelligent. Yeah, I think someone's too intelligent, and then maybe that's the problem. And she turned to me and asked if I had considered homeschooling. And at that time, I was like, geez, that was the furthest thing from my mind, let me tell you. I mean, here I am in my stiletto heels, in my little suit that I've just come back from, just giving a fabulous presentation, just feeling so fab about myself. And here they are telling me these things about our son. Yes, so that was interesting. Um, Fast forward, I guess, a year, we tried an alternate school, which of course promised us the bells, the whistles, the cherries, the ice cream toppings, all those kind of things. And a year into it, I must say, it felt like a little bit, I wouldn't say better, but it felt a little bit different and maybe therefore a little bit better. But he officially started in grade 1. And then that's when it was just, things just started to go completely awry, I guess. Um, and we all started to become very miserable. All of us, I felt. Just, mornings were getting more challenging. The energy was just becoming a little stagnant and stale and dense. So we tried 3 months of grade 1. And I never forget this. He really didn't enjoy wearing shoes, but now that he was in big school, he was forced or highly recommended to wear um, just a beautiful butterfly that's flying around here. Was wearing shoes, and thankfully the school gave us a little bit of a reprieve, and only Fridays he was required to wear them when it was assembly. But just little crazy things like that started to happen. Anyway, needless to say, Hubby and I happened to discuss it and said, well, why don't we try this? Because why not? And how that was all going to work and how that was going to play out, we weren't really sure at the time. But it was interesting how life just kind of navigates you where you need to go. So at this particular junction and point in my life, I was actually starting to get quite bored of doing what I was doing. Um, and there was no joy in it for me really anymore. It was just the money. I was just joyful because I was bringing in some really good cash. But like the actual work itself was really not fulfilling me. I mean, it was the same stuff again and again and again. And, how much of the same can you really do? And I remember it was at one session that I was doing. I used to do market research, and I was sitting behind this one-way mirror, and we had a focus group happening. And I remember how how I was taking notes frantically at the back, and I recall typing out what one particular respondent was going to say before she even said it verbatim. That's how mundane and how automated and how predictive my work had gotten. So that was quite a big turning point for me. I thought I was either a bloody genius and I could just read people really well based on their body language and their tone of voice, that I knew exactly what they were going to say. And at the end of the day, we all subject to seeing similar things on TV, hearing similar messages. So it was interesting that I was able to literally verbatim pick up what this woman was going to say. So yes, it was at that juncture that I thought, wow, no, something's got to change here. And yeah, I guess we opted and decided to go the homeschooling route. Our youngest kid really, he did enjoy school, but he just enjoys everything really. I don't think there would have been much of a challenge with him being or going to school until probably a certain point. But regardless, I'm so glad that we did go this route. I know it wasn't an easy route for us to go. We really weren't supported in this decision by, I would say, maybe two people. The rest were very against this idea and this journey which we were about to embark on. And yes, I'm just processing that for a while. So the first couple of years was really me. My hubby stayed working, and I opted for really just taking key and core projects that I felt called to take initially, and then that started to just phase out naturally. But yeah, I guess I was the primary caregiver or person who started this homeschooling journey with our boys. We did the alphabet. We predominantly, for the first couple of years, I must be honest, especially the first 2 years, we really spent most of our time outdoors. If we weren't at the mountain bike track, we were out and about. We were out exploring and doing our thing at the pool or doing whatever most of the time. It wasn't an easy adjustment for me. A caveat, I must let it be known, it was actually very challenging for me, going from being an independent person who's earning her revenue and earning a really good salary, self-employed, have my own time, have my own space, used to travel quite a bit, and suddenly that all came to an absolute complete halt. So the first couple of years were actually quite challenging for me, just adjusting. I would say the kids adjusted a lot faster than I adjusted. And it wasn't only in the adjusting that I needed to amend myself, but it was also in the aspect and element of unschooling myself. So when we first started this journey, I, in my crazy ass mind, and maybe this is my recommendation to anyone who's wanting to homeschool, don't take what they do at school and then try and bring it and fit it into your home when you do homeschooling. Like, don't do that at all. Okay. Bad idea. So I tried to do that and it was horrible. I actually want to vomit when I think about it. Okay. So, lesson learned. I learned it very quickly. And when I stopped trying so hard, that's when the magic started to happen. When I just started to let us be and let life flow a little bit and just see where the day naturally guided us and took us. And that's when things really started to work out. And we all started to become a lot more comfortable. And we really started to not only just enjoy the experience of this new journey and chapter, but that's when the learning really started to happen. We started to learn about each other. We started to learn about our external environment. We started to engage in different forms of communicating and being, and they were very involved in what I was doing on a day-to-day basis and understanding just how life works and operates and just like those kinds of things, just everyday stuff. And yeah, here we are many years on, and we've gone through various online programs and contents. Some are fab, some are crap. But isn't that the process? And I love that. I love the fact that our kids have the flexibility to tap into different various sources of information and education and mediums of learning, um, and understand what works for one doesn't necessarily work for the other. So my eldest, for example, he's an auditory learner. He takes better to learning through hearing things, okay, and then through seeing and feeling. So he's also a very kinesthetic learner as well, where our youngest is visual all the way. Okay, so he really needs to see stuff. He needs to be stimulated through the sight. And then he's a kinesthetic as well. So I guess that's what I also love about the self-directed education is that it provides you the fluidity to get to know yourself better and in turn understand what content you enjoy, what content you don't enjoy, what content, if it's presented in this way, is appealing, and if it's presented in another way, is also appealing or not appealing. And sorry, my pooch has just arrived and she wants me to open the door for her. She'll go around in the other bedroom. So yes, it's been an interesting experience from that perspective. And I really did feel that it just changed our family dynamic to a very different energetic and dimension. And we're still not very supported. We've got a few more groupies, but it's interesting how I guess we sometimes get so fixated and so stuck on how things have to be, and we don't open ourselves up to the possibility of it being another way. And I guess that for me is what the self-directed education and homeschooling journey has fostered and created in not only my kids, but in me and our family unit as a whole. And we've had to become far more malleable and adjustable and curious and yeah, like curious about ourselves, not curious about the content, but like curious about ourselves. Why do we take to certain stuff? Why don't we like others? Um, and I think that's just so awesome. The number one question that we always get from people when we tell them our kids are homeschooled or self-directed educational learning, we don't even throw that one in if the person's not ready for it. Because I mean, self-directed education, can you imagine? Oh, what the fuck does that mean? But for the newbies, we usually just stick with homeschooling. And the first question we always get, always, always, without fail, is, but how do they socialize? Well, they socialize with humans. When we go out, there's people. When we go to the shops or we go to restaurants or we step out and do errands or they play online games and they've met people from all over the world. So, wow, this aspect of socialization, I don't understand why it's such a big thing. You know, we live in a world where we believe we need to be so social with others that we forget the most important person is ourselves. We need to really get to know who we are without any external influence. And then, yes, we can be curious about others. But why don't, why don't people think about it from that perspective? Why don't people think about it from the aspect of, wow, they're self-directed learners. You really need to be able to know yourself in order for you to be able to do that. Isn't that a primary and one of the most important skills to learn? Well, it is for me. In a world that is so fucking noisy and everyone is fighting for your attention as a form of currency, you better know who the fuck you are. Otherwise, you're going to have everyone telling you who you're not and who you are. So, yes. And then the grades come up. What grade are they in? Which is another anomaly for me. Like as if we all come into this world being, at age 11, you need to have all these things ticked off. At age 12, I mean, does it work when you're an adult? No. And if that's the way you've been brought up, it's so highly probable that you're not going to, or it's going to be virtually impossible for you to try new things because you like, well, that's just not something I do because then I've got to start from the bottom. Even if I'm 35 or 70, I've got to start from the bottom. Oh, no. You only do that when you're a kid. No, guys. So I guess that's another big benefit of going on this journey is that we don't have levels. And it also makes them appreciate and understand that just because a child is 11 doesn't mean that they aren't proficient in something else and less proficient in another area. We all have different skills and qualities and gifts, innately so. And what we really try and foster in our kids is exactly that, is that if you're not good at something, it's okay. Don't give yourself a hard time about it. Maybe you're just like not a natural born accountant. I don't know. But maybe John over there, John loves trying to figure things out and trying to make things balance. He revels in that shit. Then John's the man for the job. Like, why do we all try and cookie cut people and shove them into that box and be like, oh, you gotta fit in there. Oh, come on, get in there. Instead of just like opening the box up and letting it lie flat and let people come in and dance on the platform and let people go out and, you can put up the wall once or twice or create the box if you feel you need to from time to time, but just like break out of that box, man. Just be a little bit freer in your thinking and your being and in the way you are in the world. Anyway, that's what I believe at least. So anyway, guys, I hope that has offered food for thought or perhaps has aided in initiating some form of contemplation in your own psyche and in your own mind. But I guess today, yes, was just something that I was called to share was this aspect and element of homeschooling. And like I say, it's not a journey for everyone. It's challenging, but it's also immensely rewarding. But know that the rewards will only be evident and visible after much, much time. It's a long-term investment. It's not a short win and a quick pick-me-up where you pop in and you buy a quick pair of shoes because you're feeling a bit down, and now these shoes are just going to make you feel a little bit better for at least like an hour or a week while you wear them. And then after that, the novelty's worn off and the excitement's faded away. No, this is a long-term investment. Um, and for anyone out there, especially, I guess this one goes out to the moms or the primary caregiver. And I would like to share it because it was something that I never received. It was support that I never received. So here's me offering it to you. Don't doubt your ability. You're a mother. You are probably the most equipped person to partner with your child. Please note, partner with your child on this education journey, and together you will figure it out. Take the pressure off yourself and trust in a higher power. This isn't a religious thing, guys. Just trust in your knowingness, in your intuition as a mom. Just trust in the process and allow it to guide you, and stop trying to control it. And know that you've got it. Don't let anyone make you doubt yourself. Ever. You don't need a teacher's degree. Trust me. If you've got one and you want to embark on this journey, fucking fab, that's a bonus maybe. Or maybe it's not, because you're going to have to or deprogram yourself from a certain way of thinking and being in the world. Last note on this. I get very emotional when I talk about this, as you can see. Last note and caveat on this homeschooling journey. It's gone. It's lost. Just took a right left. I'm so in my emotions right now. I keep replaying the things that were said to me during this period. Isn't that fascinating? Give me a second as I ground myself into my beingness in this here now moment, I guess. So, one thing about this journey, be prepared to deprogram, unsubscribe, step outside the comfort zone. If you're not prepared to do those things, then this is not the journey for you. You're going to have to go down those white rabbit holes. You know, white rabbit? You're going to have to go down those holes. And what you discover down those holes, you may not always enjoy and like. Be prepared for it. Be prepared for the challenges that come with being different. Right now, in today's time and age, I find homeschooling is actually becoming more accepted. There's more kids that are doing online courses or learning from online institutes and stuff like that since 2020 because of the CEO stuff. I don't even want to say the name here. But yes, since then, it's definitely become a little bit more palatable. But yes, the challenges are still there for you as a primary caregiver and a mom if you're the one embarking on this journey. So yes, you wonderful and delicious human. I'm just going to check that my audio is actually still on. I feel like I've rambled a little bit. There was a little bit of emotion in here, which clearly means that I still have a little bit of work to do on myself regarding this aspect and element, which is very fascinating and interesting. But hey, I'm up for it. That's why I do these daily vlogs, so that I can get to know and learn a little bit about myself every day. So, as always, it's 30:12 on the clock, and I think I've chatted quite sufficiently. So, as always, continue to sow those seeds. Allow for the flow and magic of life to find you so that you can ultimately grow, illuminate, and glow. I will be speaking more on this topic. So, if it's tweaked your interest or curiosity, I don't know when I'm going to be speaking more about it, but I definitely will feel called to probably touch on it a bit more. If there's any comments or questions or anything that you want to maybe share, that would be great. Perhaps a point of discussion and departure for my next discussion as the hardy dwarf flies by and says adieu. Until episode 41, stay delicious, wondrous, and magical. Peace out.